Welcome to the magical journey beyond mediocrity, where the mystical and the practical become aligned. You're listening to Meant for More, the Seeker's Guide to Success, with your host, Seeker's Guide and coach, Kristen Lloyd. Kristen guides you through mindset shifts to increase your consciousness and live your best life. So let's leave mediocrity behind and step into your magical, magnificent life with Kristen.
Welcome back, everyone, to Meant for More, the Seeker's Guide to Success. I am your host and Seeker's Guide, Kristen Lloyd. Thank you for being here and tuning in today for the show. We are now accepting call-ins. If you want to jump on the call and get into the conversation, the number is 248-629-0921. Today, our special guest is Val Neighbors. Val is a speaker, author, and hybrid coach consultant focused on teaching clients how to reverse sell to their target audience. She's coined as a sales guru and an extroverted introvert by her peers, mentors, and clients. Val ran the complete cycle of a business, startup, build, profit, and successful exit over a 6.5-year period. Val built her business to 6 figures in 8 months and 1.1 million in a tad over 24 months. According to a Wall Street Journal article, Val is in the 1.8% class of women business owners to have built a $1 million plus business, which she has accomplished in just over 24 months. And after reading that bio, I am stoked to have you on this show today, Val. Thank you for being here.
Thanks, Kristen. Thank you for having me.
I'm so excited. I'm so excited to hear all of your juicy secrets. And I always love to start off with the journey to more. As you know, Meant for More. Every one of us, we have a yearning, a passion, a desire within us, and everyone's journey to more is different, and everyone's version or definition of more is different. So I would love for you to share with all of us, the audience, the listeners, what your journey to more has been like for you.
So interestingly enough, my journey to more is probably a little bit different than a lot of folks. I first of all, I did not get introduced to the personal and even professional development world until after I had built and towards the end of owning my previous business. So for me, when I was doing my more in that business, it was strictly from a competitive standpoint, because I am a competitive person by nature. So I, kept track of my numbers on, a weekly and a biweekly basis, because I was very numbers driven at that time, which is unusual because I'm definitely not a numbers person. I did not know what a profit and loss statement was or anything like that. And switching from, more, like what is more, like you said, everybody's definition of more, just like everybody's definition of success, and maybe they're equal with one another, is different. And my journey to more was very lonely. And I didn't, they say the old adage, you don't know what you don't know, is very, very, very true. I grew up in a middle class, middle income family. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. My dad worked. We had one car. We moved a lot, 6 times from kindergarten to my senior year in high school, which is what really pulled me out of my introvert world. Having to be the new kid in a new environment with new peers quite often was traumatizing in and of itself. However, I went from growing up in that family to very quickly and successfully building a business, as you have mentioned, had a net worth in excess of $3 million and lost it going through a divorce. And
wow.
Yeah, so you hear these people talk about how they were on food stamps and welfare and living out of their cars. And, then X amount of years later, now they're, they've got a 6 or 7 figure business and they're doing this and they're doing that. And that was, that's not my story. My story is the complete opposite. And then, of course, have been rebuilding since that occurred. So I don't really know what more is, other than for me, my more is creating two foundations. One that provides therapy for veterans who have returned home and their families to treat them for PTSD, and not the traditional, let me write a script for a pharmaceutical medication and give that to you, but more of the holistic, hypnotherapy, Reiki, tapping, different energy work, as well as doing some, and I know you know this because of your background, but EMDR, which I don't remember what it stands for, but they're amazing tools. So that's one of my reasons, one of my mores that I want to get to. And then the other one is to create a foundation for children who have been sexually abused or taken advantage of, because 1 in 4 girls and 1 in 6 boys, and these are statistics from the CDC, are sexually perpetrated or violated by the time they're 18 years old. So they're my mores, on top of the fact of having my 2 boys. My 2 boys are my mores.
Would you say that that's your why?
It's my why. And like I said, it's my why, and it's my more, because I want more, I want more clients, success, recognition, notoriety, because these things take money, especially creating 2 foundations. It takes a lot of money, and to be able to serve the people that I want to serve, I have to do it. So I would say my more and my why, and my more and my success are very similar.
That's amazing. Yeah. Yeah. And so when you were going through your divorce, and you had lost that 3 million, where not everyone, one of the things that I've heard is that you have a money blueprint, or you have a story. And once you've hit a certain level, you can always get back there. So when you lost that, and you're building these foundations, and you are the sales guru, what inside of you made you realize, okay, I'm going to get there again, whether it's 8 months, 10 months, 24 months, 36 months. And I'm also going to build these foundations, which is part of your more.
Yeah. So it was not easy going through it. And with all of the skill set and knowledge I have with being, having built a 7-figure business, being a sales machine, when something traumatic happens to you, it really throws you off your game. And I got knocked off of my confidence. I mean, a year ago, I could easily tell people, okay, you want to build your business, go out and do this. Have you done this? Okay, well then try this. Well, what does your conversation look like? I could easily rattle that off. Yet for myself, it was like I was literally stuck in paralysis mode. So quite honestly, a friend of mine who I met offered to help me kind of tap back into that blueprint, that money blueprint. And through the use of tapping, of EFT, I was able to kind of reflip that switch, if you will, because as confident as I was, and listen, when I built the business to 6 and 7 figures, I didn't know what I was doing. I mean, this is going to sound really crazy. But I knew I had goals, and I set those goals, and I just worked my tail off to achieve them. And it wasn't until the year that I sold my business that I was sitting at the eWomen National Conference in Dallas, and I heard Sandra Yancey say, only 1.8% of all women ever build a 7-figure a year business. And I remember sitting in the audience going, I'm really not that smart. Are you kidding me? This has got to be wrong. So I literally pulled out my iPad, Googled it, and boom, there was the Wall Street Journal article. And I went, holy mother of God. How did I do that? So yeah, once you do it, I mean, you look at people, very famous people who have built businesses and lost everything, and built a business and lost everything, and built a business and lost everything. And sometimes some of it is partially our fault. And sometimes some of it is circumstances outside of our world, such as other individuals who we allow into our business or into our lives, who are those vultures, that feed off of, knocking people down.
Right. So what would you say is your greatest lesson in business? Or was, is?
Yeah. My greatest lesson in business was not to simply look at revenue. You have to look at your profitability. And I think a lot of people get them confused because if you have more revenue coming in does not necessarily mean you are becoming more profitable. You could actually be less profitable and bring more money in. So I think people need to get especially women. And this is not a knock on women at all by any stretch of the imagination. It's more or less how our brains work and what we like to do as a whole. And this is not every woman, but we've got to look at our numbers and we have to look at, okay, this is coming in, what's going out. So I see this number at the top as my revenue, but if you don't look all the way down at the bottom and don't look at your net and you don't look at your profit margins, then you can be bringing in $2 or $3 million a year and be less profitable than when you were bringing in $750,000. So look, I mean, I have to say that was my greatest lesson, is really getting to know my numbers. And I am not a numbers person. I'm a creative person.
So what was your business?
So my business at the time was a home care business. I had employees who went out into the homes of our aging population to help them maintain or regain their independence. So I had a home care company, and when I sold it, I had over 200 employees working for me.
Oh, very cool. Awesome. Okay. And now do you just do the foundations? Like, are you just building the foundations, or are you also teaching women how to sell, like as a coaching consultant in your own business?
Yeah, so I'm teaching women how to sell, and this is like perfect timing. I couldn't even plant this myself if I had tried. So I had somebody yesterday who created a thread in one of the women's groups. I actually think you're in it with me, and she was looking to connect with lots of other women. So of course I'm open to connecting. Biff, bam, boom. I did not get a, hey, thanks for connecting. Tell me a little bit about you. She jumps right into adding me to her private Facebook group, and I'm like, face plant. Are you kidding me?
Right.
That's like a sales. That's online sales, but that's a sales no. You don't go and add somebody to your Facebook group without having a conversation to them.
Totally.
So I absolutely love teaching women how to sell and how to do it effectively. And that's the biggest thing. I can help people lay the foundations, which is more where the consultant stuff comes in. However, I love talking about sales. I love everything that has to do with sales. I am a huge fan of sales, and there is no slimy or sleazy sales these days because those people don't exist. They can't survive in 99% of the cases.
So, and you've coined the term reverse selling. What is reverse selling, and how does someone use this in their business?
Okay, so reverse selling is similar. I know the term reverse marketing has been used previously, by people. So reverse selling is really selling without selling. And people look at me and they're like, what the heck?
Yeah, I don't even know what reverse marketing is. So
tell
us what that is too.
So if you look at, sales and marketing, so marketing is doing things on social media, PR, advertising, different things, brochures, stuff like that. Well, how do you market to people without being so in your face? It's the same thing with selling. How do you sell to people without jumping right into a sales pitch, which I don't like the word. I don't like when people use the word elevator pitch. Pitch is not necessarily a fun word because if you look up pitch, it's to throw something at somebody. Right. And quite honestly, you should never be throwing anything at anybody, whether it be your words or an inanimate object. So reverse selling is getting people interested in you, because the first thing you sell before any product or service is yourself. And like I tell my clients, there's 7 billion people in the world. Guess what? Not everybody's your ideal client. Not everybody's meant to do business with you or hang out with you or date you or marry you or be in your world. So you've got to really be very clear on who your ideal client is, because once you get to those people, that's the first step in being able to reverse sell and do it well. So it's selling to people without selling to them. You're creating a foundation of a relationship based specifically on the types of individuals that you want to do business with. And someone, how does someone use it in their business? Well, once you go through my system, my proprietary system, I've had clients that I've worked with, for 3 months, for 1 month. Like I did a test earlier this year and worked with several women for 1 month each. And all of them saw anywhere from a 30 to 100% increase in their sales in 4 to 6 weeks, which is amazing. And again, it's, selling to people what they need based on their need, not based on what you want to cram down their throat.
Right. Absolutely. And would you say that this has been your secret to your sales success?
Yes, but I didn't know it at the time. When I was building my business, I was just going out and doing what came natural to me, which is, creating great relationships with individuals, getting them to know, like, and trust me, being more interested in them than I am for my own personal outcome. And yeah, I mean, it's definitely what's been a secret to my success in sales and business.
That's awesome. The other thing that I've noticed, and when we talked before, is, and the title of the show, The Naked Truth of Success. And as part of your journey, you shared that there were a lot of different bumps in the road and different things that you've learned. And I know I asked you your greatest lesson. What do you think is the naked truth of success as part of your journey to more, as part of you reinventing yourself and selling your business, and now working with women as a coach and consultant on sales? What does that mean?
So, the naked truth of success is something that I came up with just in the past, like, I want to say 3 months. It might not even be that long. And what I started to think about is, what does the word success mean to me? And the word success means very, very, very different things to very different people. I mean, yes, I guess I'm successful as a mom. Both of my kids are living and breathing and normally healthy. So, I haven't screwed them up too much in that, as far as that's concerned. Success is waking up every day and, not to say that my life is perfect, because perfect doesn't exist and we all need to stop striving for it. But waking up every day, being grateful, for being here. And success is going through the day with a high level of emotional intelligence and connecting with people and serving people, both in my personal life and in my professional life, to its highest being. When I built my other business to 7 figures, I didn't have a lot of people to depend on. My marriage became very rocky and shaky and ultimately ended up in divorce. And, I was not there for my older son like I should have been. I alienated myself from my friends. I did not surround myself with people who were currently at or above the level that I was at. I didn't appreciate each step of the way that I went to. I mean, sure, yeah, I could go, I could fly out to Las Vegas for 3 days and spend $4,000 on a Christian Dior handbag and wallet and $325 on Prada shoes and get a brand new, $70,000 Mercedes, which I did, but something was still missing, because those things are just that, they're things. So something that I didn't have, which I believe a lot of entrepreneurs, especially if you are a no holds barred individual like myself, you need to have somebody to help keep the checks and balances in place. Right. So my road to success and the naked truth of success is, it wasn't, people sit there and say, oh my God, you hit 6 figures in 8 months and 1.1 million in a tad over 24 months. That's amazing. And I'm like, yeah, if you only knew on the back end, the things I lost. Exactly. Right. Yep. So the naked truth of success is not only something that I share from what I went through personally, but there's a lot of lessons in there to share from a business perspective, such as what individuals need to do to make sure they check themselves before they wreck themselves, if you will. And
I love that phrase. Yes.
And having somebody you know, like yourself and like my friend Nicole, you know, having somebody in your camp or in your space to help you along the way. And maybe even, you know, somebody like me who's been through it and knows the signs and knows now how to ground not only myself, but those around me, you know, bring them down. Like, let's step back, you know, because there is such a thing as growing too quickly. And that's what happened to me.
Right. And you know, it's so funny that you bring that up because so many of my clients, you know, we've talked before about the imposter syndrome is you look successful on the outside. So everybody has this assumption that you've got your shit together. Like you've got it all together because on the exterior, you have the stuff. You have what appears to be this perfect life. And again, what are the costs that you're incurring to have this lifestyle? And, you know, is it a balanced life? And that's something that I know people agree and disagree on, hustle and flow and, you know, being an action taker. But when you're running a business, there is work. And so let's not be fooled. There is work. You do have to do the work. But then what do you think about the idea of balance and the idea that you can be successful and also, you know, all of the other things. And I'm, you know, the first thing that's coming to mind for me is like, okay, I'm a good mom, right? And it's making time that I spent making sure that I spend time with my son and that I read to him and that we have time every day. But those are values. Those are things that are very important to me. And, you know, not judging anybody else's journey, but there are certain things that some people will do to get to success, quote unquote success. And I'm, you know, let's just call that the dollar amount or something.
Correct.
That then there's a loss because you're not home, you're not really present. And, you know, is there an achievable balance?
Well, you know, when it's so funny because I don't know if I'm allowed to curse on here.
Of course you can. I just did.
I'm like, I don't know. So when, you know, somebody started asking me months and months and months ago, I don't remember, I just know it was this year. I couldn't pinpoint exactly when. They started asking me about balance. And I said, are you freaking kidding me? Balance is bullshit. You know, since when, like, when did we become so superhuman that we think that we can strive to have perfect balance or balance in our life? I mean, you know, we live in a society that is super duper duper fast. Technology moves at the speed of light. We've got things coming at us on social media, on TV, on radio. I mean, all kinds of different ways things are getting like thrown at us. And I think my personal feeling is we shouldn't really be striving for balance as we should be striving for harmony. Because
Ooh, I love that.
Think about it. I mean, you know, we're moms, we're moms, we're business people. You know, you've got your radio show. I've got my TV show that I'm, you know, getting ready to relaunch. We're spouses or significant others. We're homeowners. So that makes us the cook and the cleaning lady and the transportation, the taxi cab driver for kids for their practices, you know, and yet we still somehow need to find a way in there to do meditation or yoga, you know, whatever it is that helps keep you as an individual, grounded. Well, where the hell is the balance? The balance isn't in there. It's almost impossible. Okay, maybe not impossible, but improbable that you're going to have complete balance all day, every day, 365 days a year for the entire time that you're alive. So rather than strive for balance, let's strive for harmony. Let's strive for understanding, for knowledge, for peace, for empathy, for compassion. Let's strive for those things rather than balance. That's my own personal take on the whole balance thing.
Yeah. And I do my self-care routine every day. Love it. And it really gets me ready for the day. But then again, there are nights, and I'll be the first one to say this, where I'll get 7 hours of sleep. There are nights where I'll get 4. And I mean, is that balance? No, but I do agree with what you're saying. Like that's harmony in the sense that there are days that are going to be longer and there are days that are going to be shorter. And, I always feel like it comes out in the wash. Like eventually it all works out.
And I do too. I believe eventually that all works out as well. Somehow, some way, some shape, some form.
Right. And, in terms of business and women who are entrepreneurs and trying to make everything work, what tips do you have for women who may be going through this, who are striving for harmony and trying to make everything work?
Stop trying.
Ooh, love it.
First of all, as the wise Yoda, and I am not a huge Star Wars fan, let me just preface that, but growing up as one of two girls with my father, and being the oldest, my dad didn't make me the boy, but certainly I engaged in what would typically be boy things, which is watching Star Wars. In the words of Yoda, there is no try. You do or you don't do, period. So give up the idealization that you need to have this balance in order to succeed in either area or all areas of your life, your business and your personal side. Surround yourself with other people who have achieved or accomplished what you want to achieve and really have accomplished. Because as you and I both know, and I think we touched upon this when we talked before, there's a lot of, they say, oh, you need to have social proof. You need to have social proof. I don't call it social proof. I call it social fluff. Because anybody can go on a yacht and take a picture and make it look like, they're doing X, Y, and Z. Anybody
Right.
can stand in front of two Lamborghinis in Miami Beach, Florida, and say, look at my new car, or which one should I choose? Yet they really don't have the money to buy either one. Anyone can go to the Beverly Hills Hilton and take a picture in a room if you just ask somebody and maybe tip them 20 or 40 bucks to go take a picture inside one of the rooms at the Beverly Hills Hilton. So it's not, and this goes into what, waking up, the reality of looking at people and not falling in love with pictures or their story. But what is your story? What do you want?
Mm-hmm.
Because what I want is different than what you want.
Mm-hmm.
What I need is different than what you need. So throw out the idealization that, you're going to have this balance and work to achieve harmony, which you can do by incorporating meditation, for 5 or 10 minutes. I'm not one that sits still for very long. So
Me
if you
either.
tell me
Yeah.
that I have to do a 60 or a 90 or a 30 or 60 minute meditation, my head goes, wah. So I will do 30 minutes. I've got a great meditation that I love doing for 30 minutes. However, most of mine are probably 7 to 15 minutes long at most.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then work to increase your level of emotional intelligence, which is, so much more important than somebody's IQ, because that's where the relatability, the human connection comes in. And just, listen, be real. There is no way we can all be on our A game 24 hours a day, 7 days a week with everybody that's in our lives. I hear people say, oh, fake it till you make it, fake it till you make it. Bullshit. No, there is no fake it till you make it. There's no fake it till you make it. You be real, you be authentic, and you're going to attract the people that you're meant to have in your life that are going to do business with you and support you. Period. End of story.
Yeah. And actually, I had a client a couple months ago that was feeling the need to put themselves like, oh, there are all these people in front of the Eiffel Tower and their pictures are this and their pictures are that, and they're in, I don't know, Bali. And I mean, the people who go to Bali, great, awesome. Love that you're able to do retreats.
Yeah.
But the pictures, like you said, anybody can show up with those pictures. Is that part of this new marketing? Like, is that this glamour marketing that, oh, if I hire this person, I can have that too?
Yeah, absolutely. The thing about it is, we get caught up again because of the social media. We get caught up in wanting to live in other people's lives. And, to me, that's the type of selling that is obnoxious. I won't call it sleazy or slimy. I think it's kind of obnoxious to sell people on your dream, on your lifestyle, rather than selling people on their dream and their lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where the reverse selling comes in. I'm not going to sell you, on my 6 and 7 figure accomplishments. I mean, hell, you might be perfectly happy at 5 figures. I don't know. If you're someone who wants to get to 7 figures and that's something that you desire, then let's talk. You may be a good fit for working with me. But again, reverse selling isn't throwing your stuff in somebody else's face. It's actually pulling out of the other person what they need, want, and desire.
Right. And what you were sharing earlier, the authenticity and relatability of your own story. And that's something that I actually talked about on another podcast not too long ago, where I was a guest, where we were talking about storytelling and as a way to share with your audience, to relate to your audience, and sharing parts of one's own story, being vulnerable, opening up to, this is what I went through, this is who I am. And what do you think about that in terms of, is that part of the reverse selling process? Is this new, and I love Brene Brown, and so I always, share that, but she is, vulnerability is courage, and how much of that shows up in this new selling sphere? You've got to be vulnerable.
You have to be vulnerable. And that's where the, fake it till you make it, nonsense gets tossed right out the window, because I hear people say that all the time. Well, I have to fake it until I make it. Really? Why? Says who? Who created that role? And, I give lots of plugs for different books that I've read, but one of the best books that I have read probably in the past 12 months is by the founder of Mindvalley.
I love him. Yes.
Code of the Extraordinary Mind.
Yep.
He talks about rules, breaking rules, and
bullshit rules.
Yeah, bullshit rules. My thing is like, who created this rule? Who says that this is how things have to be done? And because I am part of such a small percentage of women, I obviously don't do things the way the majority of women do that. And I believe that so many women fall into the herding of cattle, behind certain people, that they don't step out into their own power and their own realness and trueness. And I see this when I, post very open and honest things on Facebook. And I get people who, like, I've never even had a conversation with, who message me and say, "Oh my God, thank you for sharing this. My husband would kill me if he knew I was telling you this." And then they open up and they start sharing their story. And that makes me relatable. And I'm not doing it for me. I'm doing it because if it impacts one woman, if that makes one individual stand up and say, you know what, I don't have to live with this shame, this fear, this guilt, the lack of confidence, whatever it is, then I don't care if I turn off 10,000 people, as long as I help one.
And that's confidence.
Yeah, it is. It is. So again, it is part of the reverse selling. One of the components to my teachings, to my work that I do with my clients, is creating your expert or celebrity status, because that is part of reverse selling. How do you create, without you being the self-proclaimed guru? And if you look up how, what it takes to get to expert status, it's a lot of hours. And I don't remember exactly, I want to say 10 or 20,000 hours that you've invested in, the teaching, the learning, and the practicing of a particular subject or topic. You can't be that self-proclaimed expert. However, you can create that expert celebrity status. And that's what some of the things that people are missing, because again, they hide behind themselves for a number of different reasons.
And that brings me to my next question, which is, and maybe you've already answered it, but what do you think is the biggest mistake that you see women making over and over in business? And what do you think they should do instead?
Oh gosh, the one biggest. I'm not sure if I have one biggest, but I will
give us the top
will,
3.
Yeah, I will tell you this. I think, and we have kind of touched upon them to some extent. Women don't give themselves enough credit. We constantly think that whoever's got the shiny object, marketing to us on Facebook, in our email newsletters, via videos, vlogs, whatever it might be, that's the person. We idolize, women idolize other marketing gurus, if you will. And instead of taking a step back and say, okay, what do I know? What do I know that I'm damn good at, that I'm super passionate about, that I could blow over anybody in my business? What do I know? Okay, great. There's my solid foundation. Now, what the hell do I need to know? What do I need to learn? And then going out and finding someone. So instead of just jumping in and buying somebody's $25,000 program, which I speak from experience on, and didn't check this individual out, I fell for her sales techniques, and I'm putting them in quotations,
right?
And ended up firing her in 4 months, but only after I had paid her all but $3,000 of the $25,000 for a 12-month program.
Right.
So don't fall in love with somebody else's life, and don't fall in love with somebody else's, marketing, fluff that they're doing out there. So that is a big mistake that I see. I also see a lot of women making the mistake of, doing what happened, what I mentioned earlier, which is adding people to Facebook groups, or sending a message on LinkedIn or Facebook and doing diarrhea of the mouth, oh, thank you for connecting. Have you heard of such and such company? I would love for you to watch this 10-minute video and let me know, blah, 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 all these things. And it's like, wait a minute, you did not take the time to build that relationship, that know, like, and trust. Knock it off. And I see this happen. I swear with me, it happens at least twice a day. Mm-hmm. Stop looking at people as if they have dollar signs instead of a head on their neck and shoulders. Mm-hmm. And really what they need to do instead, I think I already answered the first one with that, talking about women falling in love with other coaches' lifestyles, right, by tuning in on what they're really good at and what they totally rock at, and where do they need improvement and assistance with, and that's who you go out and hire. And you don't hire the first person who sends the most emails into your inbox. You do your due diligence and you do your homework. The sleeping giants tend to get more results, or just as big of results as some of the other people. And when I talk about this whole sales thing, slow down. I know my numbers of 6 figures in 8 months and 1.1 million in a tad over 24 months looks phenomenal, and it was rapid growth. I wasn't prepared for it. Slow down, build relationships, build long-lasting relationships. Don't look at everybody as a potential client or customer. Look at everybody as a human being that you need to get to know and you need to build a relationship with, and also know that person might not be someone that is going to do business with you. However, they may know somebody who can. So Isn't it better to not get them as a client and potentially get a referral to 1 or 2 other people versus pissing them off right from the beginning because you've gone right into sales, quote unquote, sales mode without determining any needs and building a relationship? Stop it today. If you want to build a group on Facebook, you need to ask people for permission to add them to the group, period, end of story.
Right. And I love that. And I want to go back to the whole fantasy. I think that because of social media, we're all in love with the idea of the fantasy. And I think what triggers people emotionally, and we know that sales is an emotional process, is I can have that life too. This person got there, and so she's going to show me how to do it too. But what that reflects back to me is there's no one way. There's no cookie cutter. Well, there could be a cookie cutter, but the cookie cutter way doesn't work for everybody. And again, one person's dream is not necessarily another's. And although they're highlighting their lifestyle, great for you. That's awesome. But I also think that it goes back to trying And when you said, don't try, do, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because people they want something outside of themselves. And this is what I guide people back to is, you've got to go within. And just what you were saying, and I love the example of building relationships, the focus on building relationships, because when you do build those relationships, everything external comes. But when you focus on the external before the internal, before the connection, then it just, in my experience and seeing others, it just doesn't work.
No, and so many people are challenged with effectively communicating, which is another part of reverse selling. You need to be able to have conversations and quality conversations. I was on a phone call in the last 24 to 48 hours. I was on the phone call with somebody, and I say that because I don't know if the person's listening. So
Right.
I'll take it that way. And this individual just went on and on and on and on and on. And I got so confused about A, what they were selling, B, what the benefit would be to me, and C, what makes them a qualified individual for me to potentially partner with or do business with in some way, shape, or form. And I'm thinking, holy smokes, no wonder you've only sold one of your programs, because it's like information overload. So people need to get very lean in what they're saying. And I don't mean say one word and then that's it, but know exactly what you're selling, which of course starts with you, and what your message is. And that's a spot where so many people need help significantly on refining that part of them and the process they put in place. And, pardon me, I agree with you. I know there's trainings like Sandler and, Sandler sales training, and I'm drawing a blank on the other one. And they are very much, I am not a Sandler. If you're a corporate stuff shirt, then you should do Sandler training, Sandler sales training. If you are a true solopreneur or entrepreneur, you need to stay away from Sandler training and, work with somebody like me. It doesn't even have to be me, because I don't know if the individual would be a good fit. But right. Sandler is very systematic and process and stuffed shirt oriented with their sales training. It's not a cookie cutter. Yes, there are certain steps that individuals need to take, however, you need to look at the bigger picture and being able to be relatable. And they want to talk about the just hard facts of sales and closing the business, whereas there's so many other components that needs to come into play. I'm not saying it's not a good program. It's, however, really geared towards more people who are in the corporate setting.
Right. And the other thing that I was thinking about as you were talking is the whole idea of branding. I need to have a brand that fits my message. I've got to have a message that fits my brand. And as solopreneurs, women solopreneurs, you are your brand. So what about people who, they're still nailing their message, but the whole idea of branding, is that something you do, or is that something that someone has to have together right away? Because that's also this other shiny object, is like, I've got to have this all together, like now.
No, you don't. And I fell prey to that a couple of years ago after I had sold my other business. And I'm like, oh my God, I got to have a logo. I got to have PowerPoint slides that are branded with my, my logo and my moniker. And I've got to have this, and I've got to have this, and my website has to be perfect. And If you go to my website right now, I got a placeholder card up there because I'm in the process of writing my content and figuring out exactly how I want it laid out to speak to the various audiences that I have out there. So, listen, and I still, was able to make, $15,000 in 2 months without having a dang website. So no, you don't have to have a website. People, I actually asked that question in one of the groups recently. And of course there were a lot of like, oh, your website is your storefront. well, you're not coming into my store. You know, I don't have knickknacks and candles and cards and things like that for you to buy. You know, you're buying a service. So therefore, I don't believe you have to have your website, you know, perfect or have a website. If you're good at something, guess what? You pick up the phone and have conversations with people. You ask lots and lots of questions, and you can get clients that way. You don't have to be the online marketer that only leverages your business in website. I mean, listen, if that's your ultimate goal, which is, you know, it's one of my ultimate goals, because I want to have you know, residual and passive income. You know, I'll have something set up eventually, but it doesn't need to stop me from building my business. And again, it falls back to the quote unquote perfect. Everything has to be perfect. No, those are roadblocks that you're throwing up for yourself. So instead of investing $10,000 in, you know, a website that you may change in 3 months, 6 months, or 12 months, take that $10,000 and look at where your weakness is in your business and invest some of that money into working with someone who can help you increase your skill set or your knowledge in that particular line of your business.
Right. I love that. And so as we're talking about having these conversations with people, really building true connection, what advice or tips would you have for someone who, let's say, is starting out and just starting to build connections and getting to know people? And like you said, don't see them as a dollar sign, see them as a person, and really build that trust. And I love the phrase, the like, know, and trust. So building that, what advice would you have for someone who is in that area?
The first thing I would tell them is they need to shout it from the rooftops what they do. So they need to tell their friends, their family, their spouse, their kids, their cousins, the person who, well, in New Jersey, we get our gas pumped. But you know, if you're pumping gas and you're standing, you know, on the other side of a gas pump from the person, you know, over there, have a conversation. Let them know what you do. Let them know what you do when you go and you're in a line at ShopRite or Kruger's or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
Grocery store, you know, Starbucks, Dunkin' Donuts, wherever you are, you need to let everybody know what it is that you do, because you literally have no idea who could be needing what you have to offer. And by not shouting it from the rooftops, you're only doing a disservice, not only to yourself, but really to the person who's meant to do work with you. So that's the first thing, is just tell everybody and their mother what you do. Second of all, when you are going out, networking, either online, offline, or a combination of both, is absolutely vital to almost any business being built successfully. You have to know where your strengths and weaknesses are as a networker. If you are someone who has a lot of energy earlier in the day, like me, then you are going to want to stick to doing networking activities that are earlier in the day. At night, as the day goes on, I am much, 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 much more tired and exhausted and not able to think intellectually with my brain. So what I do is I do everything earlier in the day. Now, can you hear it? Now, listen, this is hysterical. Do you hear my 4-year-old banging on the door saying, yes. Mom, that's what happens when you have a sick child at home. So recognize where your strength is from a networking standpoint, and don't go in looking at everybody as a dollar sign. You know, go in and look who you can meet. And kind of as a backup to that, or in any situation where you're meeting somebody, make sure you follow up with people. I can't tell you how many people I was ready to buy from them, only because, not so much because I totally knew, and trusted them.
Right.
And there were situations where I really liked the product or the service they had to offer. And because I am such a sales whiz, I wait to see if people ask me to buy from them. And I can't tell you how many times people have missed out on opportunities for me to buy from them. And not only what that potential missed opportunity was, but with the other people that I have influence with, or you know, I don't want to say over, because that sounds like I'm hypnotizing people, but me being an influencer, how much other business did they potentially lose? So follow up when someone shows an interest or gives you their business card. I don't have business cards, by the way. I take people's business cards.
I just got them. I just got them in August because I started networking in person. And because I just said, it's time. And I went out and got business cards, and already I'm having to redo them and reorder because it's only been 2 months and I've already gone through I got the minimum, which was what, $250 or something, but
probably $250. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's huge. And now I know, okay, I've already learned I need to change it, so maybe I'll stick with that $250 because maybe every $250 you change. But that's the thing is I did exactly what you've shared is everybody that I talk to. And you know what? That's amazing because one of the things that I used to do was to say, well, the person at the checkout, how do I know, they can't afford my services? And you know what? I literally reframed that and said, what they can afford is none of my business.
That's right.
I'm here to serve. I'm here to serve. I'm here to help. I'm here to guide. And if exactly what you said, and I went through that and it was through a meditation actually. And so I heard what you think they can afford is judgment. That's not your business. And when you share who you are and your message, whether they need you or whether they're sister or brother, the people who need you will find you.
They will. And I think, listen, I mean, yes, there's going to be people that can afford, our service, and there are going to be people that can't afford our services. And quite honestly, I'm totally cool with that. I only want to, I want to find the people who can afford my services. I am not the type of individual who's going to tell someone, well, don't you have a line of credit that you can use? Well, can't you go open up another credit card? Really? Why am I going to tell you to create more debt?
Right.
To grow your business. Now, if you say, oh, I have a line of credit, I work to try not to use it, and you really don't have any other exorbitant, and I actually had this conversation with somebody over the past couple of weeks, and your business is quote unquote healthy where you don't have a lot of debt, then it may make sense. I mean, I think that's the other thing people don't get. When I started my previous business, it wasn't $1,000 or $5,000 or $10,000 investment. It cost me around $85,000 to get my doors open and ready to do business. $85,000. So, I mean, I've got another business that I started not that long ago. It cost me $100 to invest in it, and I'm making $1,000 a month for 24 months. Now, was that worth a $100 investment? Hell yeah. Was it worth me investing $85,000 to build a several $1,000,000 business? Hell yeah. But don't ever, if a coach or a consultant tells you to go take out another credit card or take out a second loan or a line of credit, don't do it. That is not a wise business. That is not a wise business or personal decision. And that coach is steering you in the wrong direction. Period. End of story.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I am, that's one of the things that I recognized early on was that ethics and integrity followed me from my counseling background. I just, and I know business is business, but that's just something I could not ask of my clients or potential clients.
Well, and business is business, but that doesn't mean that you go here's the thing. This is what I always said. Hiring a coach or consultant should stretch you because it should. There's a greater chance that you're going to put your skin in the game if it does stretch you.
Yeah.
But it's stress you to the point where you're wondering how you're going to make your mortgage payment, your car payment, or put food on your table.
Right. There's a difference.
And as I'm sure you've seen, like you were talking about putting judgment on whether or not the person who was the cashier at the local grocery store could afford your services. There are a lot of people who have lots of money and act like they don't have money. So we can't judge based
Totally.
on because somebody has a particular position or role or lives in a particular area that all of a sudden they either can or can't afford, products or services. So I think that was a great thing that you came to by not putting that judgment on various individuals.
And it's interesting because as soon as you said that, it popped up because there was a gentleman at the grocery store, older gentleman. I want to say he's in his late 50s, early 60s, not that old, but I mean, he was in the grocery store, like he works in the grocery store, probably could be in his 60s. And there was, he won the lottery, not like the jackpot, but I'm sure it was $1 million or $2 million. He still works at the grocery store.
That's right.
And there's this assumption that once you hit a certain amount in the lottery that you're going to quit your job and then, live the life of Riley or whatever, but he still works at the grocery store. And so again, when you make assumptions, and that goes back to that assumption of, then I met someone at the GNC where he was a retired LPC, but he was working at the GNC. And I'm like, we are little judgment machines.
We sure are.
And so it was like, oh, okay. And he wanted something simple because, when you deal with people's problems for 30 years, but
I know. He wanted
that's
something
interesting.
easy.
So, yeah. So, okay. Please share with everyone where they can find you, where they can connect with you. Where do you hang out online? And then if we have a minute, I'd love to hear a little bit more about your foundations. If you would like to share about those.
Yeah. So as I had mentioned, my website, if you go there, I have a placeholder page on there. And I believe I recently found out that my opt-in is not even connected to something. So don't rely on the old website, but people can connect with me on LinkedIn. I have a Twitter account. I'm still not really sure what I'm doing on Twitter, quite honestly, because I always have more than 120 characters to say. So I struggle on that platform. Facebook, of course, and then also, if they want to check out my Val TV, if they go to YouTube and go to Val TV, they will be able to subscribe to my channel. I'm pretty open with my connections as long as you're not some divorced military individual living in the UK sending me a Facebook friend request. I'm pretty open to connecting with people as long as we have mutual friends and you don't seem like some kind of a wacko. Right. If you're a wacko, no go. Like, don't even bother.
No, thank you.
That's a whole nother episode. But anyway, they're more than welcome to connect with me. If they do go to my website and they're interested in, getting on my mailing list, I will see them. I need to fix the whole opt-in part because something is not connected and I am not the technology guru at all. So that'll be something that will get done, but they can find me just about everywhere.
Awesome. So I'm so glad that you were able to come on today. Do you have, and then tell us a little bit about your foundations. Are they up and running?
Oh gosh, no, they're on my vision board out because really, both of them require not only a lot of time, but a lot of financing as well, which is why I need to, continue to build my, hybrid coaching consulting business, as well as getting Val TV, up and running and funded and, paid advertisers and things of that nature because I want to do them. And, people always say, well, why are certain charities or certain human interest topics important to an individual? And, my grandfather on my dad's side was a veteran, but he wasn't in the line of duty or anything. Mm-hmm. He was actually in Germany during World War II and not, so far removed from what was happening. However, I saw and I continue to see especially these young men and women, who have put their lives on the line to fight for our freedom, to defend our country.
Yeah.
And they come back from their tours, and whether they physically, you can see that they've had some sort of an impact on them or not, it's that emotional scarring that's not visible to the majority of people when you interact with them. Why do we not have a better system in place to support these men and women and their spouses and their children and their families so they can thrive better? That there's, that suicide rates are kept at a minimum, that, somehow we can positively affect the, potential of them getting divorced, and we can help save marriages. It's just, there's just so much. I believe people are genuinely very good people by nature. I believe that that's how we're born. We're born good people, and we are human beings. And there's so much of what we do that takes that humanity out of life.
Right.
And so it's important to me, because I would not personally go and join the military to defend my country. And I have a lot of respect for the men and women that do. And I think that they get the raw end of the deal.
Right. Well, thank you for sharing that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not up and running yet. It's to be determined, ... or to be continued, ...
No, that's awesome. And thank you so much for being here. And I appreciate all that you shared with our listeners, because you've given tremendous value today, and we appreciate that.
Thank you. It was fun being on here. I really enjoyed it. Thanks, Kristen.
Yay. And thank you, everyone, for listening. It's been another fantastic show. To continue the conversation, hop on over to the group on Facebook, www.facebook.com/groups/Mindset Alchemy. And to grab your very own free Seeker's Guide workbook, head on over to KristenLloyd.com and click on free gifts. Until next time, you are meant for more, and keep seeking.
Thanks for tuning in to Meant for More, the Seeker's Guide to Success. But the fun doesn't end here. Head over to KristenLloyd.com for your Seeker's Guide workbook, filled with exercises to help you go from mediocre to magically magnificent.